All right, so I have two things on my screen right now. I have my MQTT Explorer on this side of the screen, and I have the Tony editor or the Tony ID on the side of the screen. And right now you can see that here is where we have the list of topics. Whenever there's a new topic, it's going to display here. By default, you see these 40 topics here, right? So just ignore this one for now. The most important thing is note the broker's IP. This is the broker IP, 192.168.0 and 132. Okay, so I'm going to start coding the Micropython, sorry, the ESP32. Now, take notes, I have the ESP here, as you guys can see here. I'm sure you can see this clearly. And unlike the last video I did where I programmed the ESP to blink the onboard LED, I've actually gone ahead to connect an LED bulb to that same pin 2 we used in the last class. So you guys can see a much more brighter light effect when I turn on and off this LED, right? So if you have your MicroPython installed on ESP, then just all you need to do is just to plug in the USB cord and you can start coding. So ensure that the system says MicroPython and whatever version of MicroPython you're using. So just to verify that everything works fine, let's turn on and off the LED connected to the MicroPython or the ESP, sorry. So quickly, I'm going to say import machine, and I'm going to say LED equal to machine dot pin, and I'm going to say LED2 pin 2, and I'm going to say machine dot pin dot out to set it as an output pin, and I'm going to say LED dot on. That will turn on the LED. So if I run this code by simply clicking this run button here, you can see that the LED comes up. Now if I want to turn this off, I need to just change this to off and then run this code and it goes off. Now, this might look slightly different from the code I did in the last class where I programmed the ESP. Another way you can do this is to make things shorter, is to say from pin import machine. Sorry, that's upside down. From machine imports pin. So instead of having machine.pin, you can just say pin straightforward, and you can just say pin.out. So it's going to have the same effect. So let's change this to on, and then let's run this code here, and then you get this. Now that's just to confirm that everything works fine. Now let's move ahead to programming the ESP to publish and subscribe to values or topics on the MQTT broker. I'm going to clear all this. Now, the first thing you need to do is to ensure that the ESP is connected to the Wi-Fi network or the network that the broker is installed in. So you can access the broker via this IP address. Now you can also use a broker on the internet, right? So, but still, you still have to connect the ESP to the internet or to your network. In this case, I want to connect my ESP to my Wi-Fi network. So that's the first thing you need to do. So how do we go about that? So I'm going to copy a code from here, and I'm just going to copy and paste here and explain to you guys. Now, in this code, we are importing network, we are importing ESP, we are importing JSON. I'm going to explain the use of all these things, and then we're importing GC. So let me just bring this up here. So GC basically is just these two lines of code that is here, right? This ESP.os debug and GC.collect. For now, just see it as a standard that just helps your ESP to work fine, right? Just see it as a standard, just necessary for now. So let's ignore these two lines of code. The thing you want to place focus on is everything from line 9 here downward. All right, so let's start with that. Now, in order for you to connect to the Wi-Fi network, you need to tell the ESP the SSID, which is the Wi-Fi name, and the password of the Wi-Fi. So you can do that in several ways, right? For instance, and let me comment this out for now. Sorry. You can do it this way. Why is this not commenting? Oh, sorry, this is not Visual Studio. I can't comment with control hash. Sorry. All right, so I just want to comment these guys out for now. I'm going to come back to them. So usually you want to enter your Wi-Fi password here, create a variable and then put this as your Wi-Fi password. So you can just say, so your Wi-Fi name, right? So let me just put a comment here that says Wi-Fi name. So you can replace everything here that says config Wi-Fi with your Wi-Fi name. Remember, it has to be a string. So if your Wi-Fi name is, let's say, my Wi-Fi, then it should be my Wi-Fi. You understand? Then here you have your password. So if your password is my Wi-Fi, you have the same thing. So my Wi-Fi. You understand? However, to make things easy and to make things kind of automatic, I'm not going to do it this way. I'm going to do it in a much more advanced way, which is going to be very, very useful in the future. So I'm going to Control Z all this, and I'm going to comment this guys and explain to you what I actually did here. So I'm going to click on File here and click on New, and I'm going to create what we call a dictionary, Python dictionary, or sometimes referred to as a JSON. So inside a dictionary, the way you create a dictionary is, I'm going to do something like this. In this dictionary, I'm going to have, let's come back here. I want to check something. Okay, so we have Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi password. So I'm going to have a string that says Wi-Fi underscore password, and followed by a colon, then the password of your Wi-Fi. So let's assume the password of the Wi-Fi is my Wi-Fi. Nice, comma. Then I'm going to do the same thing for Wi-Fi, and let me just confirm that name here. Okay, Wi-Fi. And I'm going to say colon, and I'm going to put this to my Wi-Fi. Now, please, you are not meant to use my Wi-Fi. Replace this with your actual Wi-Fi name and actual Wi-Fi password. Now, what have I done here? I'm going to press Ctrl X, and Tony is going to ask me if I'm going to save this on my computer or on the Micropython device, which is ESP. So I'm going to save this on the Micropython device. And I'm going to call this config.json, and I'll press enter. Now, what I've done is I have simply saved my Wi-Fi password and my Wi-Fi name permanently on the ASP with a file called config.json, right? So anytime I need it, I can always refer to that file. You understand? So it's more like do it for once and just forget about it. So if you come back here, you can see that at this point in line 9, I'm opening that file called config.json. I'm reading the file, that's what this R stands for. And then I'm also loading the file using a JSON module I imported here. So the JSON is what allows you to import JSON files or dictionary files. Then I'm also closing that file to ensure that everything is in the proper position. So open the file, load the file, and then close the file. Then I can now, since I loaded the file into a variable called config, I can now say that my SSID is equal to config open brackets Wi-Fi. So it's going to, this value here, or this statement here, is going to be replaced by whatever has been written here. The same thing happens to the password and Wi-Fi name. So once we've gotten those two values, we can now use this network module to refer to a class called WLAN class, and then call this attributes here, and then use that to create a Wi-Fi station instance. Now this is the instance we are going to use to connect to the network. So just set the Wi-Fi to active. So Wi-Fi.active set to true. Then the next thing you want to do is to connect Wi-Fi.connect, and then pass in the SSID here and the password saved here. This also means that you can directly just input your SSID here, like say my Wi-Fi, and directly input your password here. But we're not doing that. We're doing it with the config files. All right. So then the next thing you want to do is to confirm that the Wi-Fi is connected. If it's not connected, then just stay in this while loop until it connects. Then if it connects successfully, print out connection is successful and print out the IP address or the information about the connection. So that's all. Now I'm going to press Ctrl Save here. I'm going to save this as boot.py. So I'm going to overwrite this one that is here and say OK. Now, what does this mean? It means that anytime this ESP comes up for the first time when it's plugged into power, it loads this code. So any code, whatever code is saved as boot.py is what the ESP loads at startup. So whenever you plug in the CSP, it loads this boost.py code, which means it connects to your network. So I'm going to come back to config.json here and edit this to my actual Wi-Fi network and actual Wi-Fi password behind the scenes so you guys don't see it. So, all right, so we'll be back in a jiffy. So, all right, guys, I've gone ahead to edit my config.json into my actual Wi-Fi name and actual Wi-Fi password. And that's another beautiful thing of doing it this way because you kind of isolate the Wi-Fi and password. So you guys don't have to see my Wi-Fi and password while I'm writing this code. So ensure that when you edit the Wi-Fi and password name in config.json, ensure you press Ctrl X or save the file. And now let's run this code. If everything works fine, you should see Micropython or the ESP should say something like connection successful. If it doesn't work, it means that either your Wi-Fi network is not up or you use the wrong Wi-Fi name or Wi-Fi password. So let's click on run. So let's see what happens. It doesn't connect, nothing is happening. I think I've actually used the wrong Wi-Fi password. So I'm going to just confirm that quickly. So I actually realized that I interchanged the Wi-Fi name for the Wi-Fi password and the password for the Wi-Fi name. So now I've corrected that, so let's run this now. And it's saying Wi-Fi internal error. So I think I have to reset the entire system because of that mistake I made. So I'm just going to unplug this quickly. And I'm going to plug it back. So if everything works fine, it should say Wi-Fi connected. Okay, as you guys can see, it says connection successful, and it says it printed out the IP address, which is this, right? Now, notice something that I didn't have to click on the play button when I remove and plug in the ESP. Automatically, it just connected because that file is saved as boost.py. So the moment I removed and plugged this guy back, automatically connected to the network using that boost.py code I've written. So it means that now we are connected to the ESP. So you can probably take note of this IP address. This is the IP address of the ESP, but it's not really important for what we want to do for now. So that is all for, okay, hold on, sorry. That is all for the Wi-Fi connection. So just a brief recap: import network, import all these. We open a file where the password and the Wi-Fi name is saved, and use that to extract the Wi-Fi password and Wi-Fi name, and then use the network.ylam class to create an instance of Wi-Fi, set to true, connect to the password and the SSID, and then also check if Wi-Fi is connected. If not, stay in that while loop. If it is connected successfully, print out connection successful, and then print out the Wi-Fi.config, which is basically the IP address. All right, so now we are done with this boost.py and it has been saved inside the ESP, meaning that wherever this ESP is, either it is powered by power bank, powered by power adapter, powered by my system, it's going to connect to my Wi-Fi network as long as I don't change my password, of course.